This episode of the Flush Podcast is brought to you by Onyx Hunt, the #1 GPS hunting map app. Onyx, know where you stand. Today I'm talking with a bird hunter that's driven by good dog work. Robert Jones shares his hunting journey on social media, and he's not afraid to throw his dogs under the bus. Robert hunts upland birds in America's western states, from California's mountain quail to Montana roosters, sharpies, Hungarian partridge, and plenty of birds in between. If you're not following Robert, you probably should. Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank. I'm your host. Brandon Morton is our producer. I'm thankful for Brandon every single day, but especially today because I somehow managed to blow up my audio board today. And Brandon, as always, came up with a quick solution to keep the show rolling. We're doing our best with audio technicalities, so I really hope that you can hear this show clearly. If you can, it's completely thanks to Brandon. Anyway, enough about us. Let's get to the stuff that you came here to listen to. Robert Jones is a diehard bird hunter that I've been following on social media for a few years now. I've tried to connect with him a few times, but today we finally made it happen. Robert, thank you for giving us a few minutes of your time.
Well, thanks for having me on.
So I'm in Minnesota right now, and it's been, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 days at least since it's been above zero. My dog doesn't want to go outside to even take a pee. Are you still able to get out with your dogs?
Um, you know, we've been holed up inside here for the past few days also, so we're all getting a little cabin fever, but it looks like maybe Sunday the weather will start to get a little better and we can get out and get a little exercise in again.
Where do you call home?
I am in Sydney, Montana right now.
Sydney, Montana. What brought you to that part of the country?
Oh, well, birds and bird dogs basically.
Really? It wasn't a job or a lady?
Well, I do have a job here. Unfortunately, it cuts into some hunting time for sure. And I have met a nice lady that lives relatively nearby by Montana standards. So those are definitely pluses. But yeah, I came out here to try to develop some better dogs and get to hunt more often than I did it at home. And it worked out pretty well this year.
Well, congrats on the lady. I'm glad you have the job. When did you move out there?
I moved here in right at the beginning of August. I moved out.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And prior to that, where did you grow up and where did you uh, live prior to moving to Montana?
I was born and raised in the San Joaquin Valley of California, basically dead center of the state. Um, if you've ever eaten an almond, it probably came from, within 30 miles of where I was raised. And yeah, spent 30 something years out there and then decided that if there was ever a time to make a move, it was kind of in the middle of this crazy time we're going through right now, and I just decided to move to Montana.
Well, it's kind of bittersweet for me personally. I'm happy for you because you moved to such bird-rich country, but I'm also kind of sad because you and I have been talking now for a couple of years about setting up a mountain quail hunt in California. And we were a few days away from pulling it off last year, but a pretty nasty storm came through and changed our plans. Um, so you spent a lot of time in the mountains in California. When did you start hunting out there?
Let's see. I think I started hunting when I was 20 years old. Um, I My grandfather passed away and left me a shotgun, and I went out. My brother and I went out dove hunting, which luckily we knew quite a few farmers in the area that would let us go out and dove hunt, and there's some good flights out there. So we went out dove hunting one time. It probably took us both a couple hundred shells to shoot a limit of doves, and I was basically hooked. That was in September, and then on my birthday in October, I bought myself a Springer Spaniel puppy, and it's been on ever since I got that dog.
But who took you? Did somebody else have the knowledge or the information, or did you research it? I mean, what got you out there besides your grandpa's shotgun?
um, Hunting was something that was something my grandpa and dad did growing up. When my dad was growing up, it wasn't a foreign concept really, but it was just, I think my dad had taken me deer hunting once or twice before that, but I had never been bird hunting. I was able to get my hunter's ed through 4-H and shooting sports, so I had everything I needed. I had my hunter's ed done, and I had a shotgun, and I had some land that I had permission to go out and shoot on. So I just decided to go out there and give it a try. And luckily, the first spot, it's not like I knew what I was doing. We just showed up at a random field of someone we knew who, and went dove hunting, and there was an incredible flight of doves out there, and we had a great time, and um, yeah, I was just hooked.
Well, and people learn in a lot of different ways. Some people really have a mentor that takes them along, and other people they learn by just going out there and experiencing it, and making the mistakes, learning from it, making more mistakes, learning and making more and learning and continuing that process until you become pretty successful at hunting. So that seems like it was your approach to make mistakes and learn.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a steep learning curve. A lot of things to navigate in California to do that. Finding
Hmm.
good spots is tough, but slowly but surely, we built up a pretty good base of spots and started to figure out what we were looking for and what we were doing, and was more successful every year. And yeah.
So most people, when they think of upland bird hunting, they think really Midwest and then southern quail. They don't typically think of California, but I mean, the state is huge. There's, I want to say, like 400,000 upland bird hunters or hunters. I forget the number. Somebody told me that had knowledge of it. So there's quite a few hunters in that state, right?
Right. Yeah. And I, I don't quote me on this, but I think the last time I looked at it, it was actually like 800,000. And I would say a lot of that is like people just buying a license for opening day of dove season, because it's a family event and people come
Hmm.
from everywhere and go line up out in a vineyard and just pass shoot doves. But yeah, it's a huge state. You can hunt everything from Sonoran Desert to rainforest, pretty much, and anything in between that you can think of. And there's a lot of variety out there, and a lot of beautiful places to explore.
What was the bird that hooked you? I mean, you're not, uh, we're not talking doves on this show for the most part because I've seen a couple hundred, maybe thousand posts that you've made and they're not doves. So what was the bird that really hooked you?
Um, you know, with my Springer JP and just how tough it is to do in California, you'll hear the majority of people would say there's no wild pheasants in California, but me and this big bull-headed Springer just figured it out, and we're able to harvest a handful of truly wild roosters every year in California. And that was like, I love quail hunting, um, and now covey birds probably are more exciting to me than pheasants, but at the time it was being able to go figure out how to do something that so many people said what didn't exist anymore in California.
Hmm. How long did it take you to get one?
Um, that first season that my brother and I hunted, we obviously didn't, JP was never old enough that year to go hunting with us, so we just did a lot of walking around. And I remember we'd probably been out like 4 or 5 times and hadn't even flushed a bird. And my dad, who grew up in the heyday when they used to harvest 750,000 roosters a year in California, my dad was like, "Well, why don't you guys just go walk out in the pasture? There's no pheasants back there either." And, so finally, I think about on our maybe fourth or fifth try, we flushed a rooster, and my brother and I both emptied our gun at it and didn't pull a feather. So that first season was a failure, except for actually seeing one rooster. But the next season with JP, the floodgates opened. He just completely changed the dynamic.
Hmm. So you got this dog. You were in your probably early 20s, it sounds like.
Yep.
Did you did you know that you wanted to get a Springer, or what was the reason you got that dog?
Yeah, I kind of did some hasty research on different dog breeds, and I knew if nothing else that you know it's going to be a family dog that's with you for hopefully 10 to 12 years, and if nothing else, I'll be going out to dove hunt at least a handful of times a year. So I need a solid retriever, and just happened to find the dreaded backyard breeder in the newspaper at the time. How we used to find dogs in the classifieds, and the guy was only about 50 miles or so from where I live, and he had a litter of Springers, and I drove down there, kind of just picked out the dog that picked out me, basically. And I couldn't imagine ever having a more perfect first dog, except for that I didn't know how to train it, and he was far too much dog for me. But besides that, it was awesome.
But don't you think that's made you into the hunter dog trainer that you are today?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. If I could have JP again as an 8-week old pup and do things better, I would do it right now.
Yeah, I can completely relate to being my puppy, she's 10 months now, and we just went through a heck of a season. And she's like your other dogs, your current dogs. They're big runners, very bold, wants to go, just incredible prey drive. But in hindsight, there were days in the field where I was like, "What was I thinking? This was just a massive, this was a massive mistake. I should have gotten a lab that wants to hang out with me. She does not want anything to do with me, and that was the problem. We had to really work on our obedience and our yeah, we're going hunting together. You're not going hunting. We are, and doing it together. And I've learned so much. I had a listener send a email this week, and he's debating. He's in his mid 20s. He works a lot. And he said, "I've listened to your stories of what you've gone through." He goes, "I want a dog really bad. I can't decide if I should train it or if I should send it to somebody else to train." And I told him, I'm like, "Man, you are going to go through hell probably, and you're going to regret it for a while, few days potentially, but you're going to come out of it so much better because you're doing it yourself. You're learning, you're experiencing it, and all of that, those few months, few years are going to set you up for life." And I've learned immensely based on what I've gone through, but also the people I've surrounded myself with. How did you know how to train your dog? I mean, you didn't grow up hunting, you didn't grow up around it, right? So what did you do?
Yeah, no, I read a book. It's called Hup, Training the Spaniel the American Way. And I gleaned what I could from that book. And, training a spaniel is, as long as you can keep them in range, you're doing pretty good. They're going to retrieve, they're going to flush birds, they're going to find birds. So, yeah, it's kind of just working, like getting that solid base, that connection between the two of you, and getting that obedience down to where, when your bird does start trailing a rooster, either hopefully he wants to A, stay connected with you so he can get the payoff at the end, which is his retrieve, or B, that uh, you have a strong enough base of where you can slow him down or stop him so you can keep up basically, so.
Hmm.
And I have to say JP and I weren't the best at that our first year. I decided to run him his entire puppy season, which he was all over a year old when he ran his first season. I decided to give him his head and let him run with no uh, e-collar or any way to correct him except for like physically chasing him down and correcting him. So yeah, we watched quite a few pheasants pile out the end of a field that we were just barely stepping into.
Yeah. My first hunt with Daisy, my puppy, she was 6.5 or 7 months, and we had been working with. I've been working with her like crazy. She ran away from home every chance she could. She drugged my little boys through the backyard, holding onto the rope until they couldn't hold it anymore, and then she was gone. I mean, thank goodness we have a number on her so that because she loved people, that was the thing. So she would run up to other people in town. She'd cross highways and roads, and it was a disaster, man. We got her when she was 5 months old from a buddy up in northwest North Dakota, and his dogs rock, and I knew this one would too because I hunted with the parents. But I mean, I didn't have that dog from day one. She had her tendencies. She loved open prairie and got the freedom to run out there. And moving to the neighborhood where I live, didn't have that option, so it was a real big learning curve for us. And then our first hunt, when we finally let her go. 900 yards into the bottom of the Badlands, into the canyon, where I eventually pulled her out of, thanks to the e-collar. But I thought she was gone forever. I mean, it's only because she ran out of steam. She just needed to cool down, so she found a crack beneath the, like a 1 foot wide crack that she weaseled her way in about 6 feet deep and found some of that Badlands sludge. That's how I found her. But I was standing in the grass 10 yards away, and I'm like, she's gone. Like the e-collar says 10 yards, but I don't see her. And so I can't imagine. I can't imagine doing that without the e-collar. I mean, it almost seems crazy to me based on my personal experiences.
Right. Yeah, we rely so heavily on that GPS now. It is it would definitely be a very different thing turning them loose out there and having to stay up on ridge lines to keep them in sight as best as you could.
Well, so you got into mountain quail hunting, and I know that was something we wanted to film together to document a TV show. We've never done a mountain quail hunt, and it's a tough bird. I've never personally done it. I just know from what I've studied and learned that not easy, but yet that seemed to be something you really kind of enjoyed. It seems like you like the challenge.
Yes. Yeah. And they're just, well, the other thing is mountain quail season starts before everything else in California. And at that time of year, it still could very well be 100 degrees in the valley. But if you get up, 7,000, 8,000 feet up in the Sierra Nevada, and you can get a good workout in with your dog before noon before it gets too hot. So yeah, we would spend a lot of time up there just getting exercise and figuring out what these crazy quail like to do.
What makes them so challenging to hunt?
It depends on where you're hunting them, but on the western slope of the Sierra Nevada, early in the year, you're in like old growth conifer forest, and you're looking for these small openings that are just choked out with buckbrush that has these huge spikes on them. And mountain quail love to run and flush wild and just do everything that a nice bird shouldn't do. They do it all, and they do it while they're at 8,000 feet in elevation and on side slopes and creek drainages and all of that good stuff.
For a Midwest flatlander, I've heard them compared to the thickness of the cover that you would find rough grouse in, but yet they're a bird that runs like a scaled quail, and then you've got the mountain elevation on top of it. So it seems to me like it's the ultimate challenge. I mean, it's way up on my bucket list of birds that I want to get.
Yeah, yeah, they are an incredible bird. Just some of the things they do, their biology, and there's some of the places I hunt them near home. They they could very well be covered with 15 feet of snow this time of year, and those birds, they have to migrate probably 30 miles to get below the snow line from where they're at up there, and they make that journey every year, and it's incredible.
Wow. Did they survive the fires out there this year? I'm sure you probably stayed in touch with a few of your friends back in that area. Did they hunt them? I know those mountains were lit up this summer and fall.
Yeah, a lot of my spots burned just as I was leaving to move out here, and yeah, a few of my friends back home were able. Some of the pockets that didn't burn are still holding birds, and obviously, the ones that made it through in those pockets are gonna hopefully have a good spring and be able to start taking back over some of that burnt stuff, which should be in 3 to 5 years, should be pretty good. So I mean, it's tragic, but also there's just too much forest there, more
Hmm.
than more than more than what's natural. So when that happens, you get some of those catastrophic fires like that, and it's reclaimed one way or another. And unfortunately, fire is the way that it happens. So hopefully in 3 to 5 years, a lot of those spots, the birds will be responding to all the new growth and expanding back out of those pockets that they were able to hunker down in, and might be pretty good on the western slope in some of those areas in a few years.
Well, right. I mean, prior to us having, you know, civilization in those areas, they would consistently burn, and that's a healthy way to keep habitat, for all kinds of different species. So I have to imagine it's worth, I mean, if you're out in that area and you know where those burn areas are, it might be a good idea to drop a few pins, right, in some of the better
Absolutely.
places because it's going to take a few years, but once it comes back, it should come back a lot better, lot stronger, and the all the wildlife will benefit from that.
Yeah, yeah.
So you moved to Montana this summer, and for people that don't know where Sydney is, what part of the state?
It is right on the North Dakota border, basically. Maybe about midway north to south, but
Okay.
way on the eastern side. And yeah, just kind of your prototypical mixed farmland prairie bird country out here.
I don't think you could have picked a better year to move out there. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, no, the bird numbers, like I don't have a lot to base it off of because I've only hunted in this area a few times before, but the bird numbers seemed really good and the weather was really nice. So yeah.
Hmm. Do you have any idea how many days you spent in the field from, let's say, August through January?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I mean, a minimum of 3 days a week, and there were some stretches in there I think where it was just so nice out and the dogs were working really well that I probably went a few spurts in there where we would go every day after work for 10 or 12 days in a row before taking a break. So
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I only got to spend a couple days up there, and I just was, I mean, you were just in heaven. It didn't seem to matter where I went. We found birds, and it was pheasants, Hungarian partridge, sharp-tailed grouse, like I have probably never seen before. Just the sheer number of birds. Did you hunt a wide part of the state, or did you kind of pick a region and stick with it?
yeah, I kind of stayed just here in the northeast corner, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't venture out too much this year because of the new job. I wasn't really able to take any time off, so even weekends, I was pretty close to here, but found plenty of good spots to keep us busy around here. So hunted a little bit in Western North Dakota also, and then made a few trips down kind of south central in Montana to chase the elusive Montana chucker once or twice also.
Really? Tell me more. How did that go?
Um, Mixed results. We found birds every time. Coming from my Western background, I knew what I was looking for. So, you find that range map and then start scouting some contour lines and water sources early in the year. And yeah, we went out, we located birds the first trip. Didn't get any dog work. It was hot and kind of miserable out there, but successful in that, we located some coveys. And then the second time out, I chucker are the hardest bird for me to shoot. So I knew I wasn't going to kill a bird, but my friend,
Why? What's so difficult?
I don't know. They're the shot presentations are tough on me, having to cover the bird up the way you do when they're losing elevation. But at this
Mhm.
point, it's mental. Like I've gone with both of my dogs, I've gone out and had them have six fines where I walked out and flushed in front of them before hitting a bird. And at this point, it's just pure mental. Like they're in my head, and I just have a terrible time shooting. Yeah, but my friend Emily was able to harvest just a stud chucker in Montana, and just a beautiful, beautiful bird, and had a great time. I love that Great Basin high desert, so any chance I get to be in it is a good time for me, whether I shoot birds or not.
Right, right. Just to be a part of the experience. So you hunted, I know you hunted them in Nevada. Did you hunt them in Idaho too, Chucker, over the years?
Idaho's one state I've never hunted, so
Okay.
yeah, I've hunted them quite a bit in California and a little bit in Nevada, and um, have got some dog work on them in Oregon, but that was during sage grouse season. So yeah, just a little bit kind of in those three states, but yeah.
How does Montana compare to the Chucker hunting that you had further west?
Their range is so isolated here, and um, I don't have anything to base it off of. This was
Hmm.
all kind of recon this year, just kind of finding them. But we didn't really see any big coveys, and we didn't ever have a day where we found a lot of coveys like you can in northern Nevada or northeastern California. But there's definitely some chucker around for a guy who's willing to get out there and give it a go.
Well, it's interesting you say that. You're kind of talking about recon mission and first time, and that's one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you because so many people, myself included, a lot of our listeners, they want to know how to find these places. They want to know how to expand into new uh, parts of the country. And this year, so many people had the time to work remotely and drive to new places. But I've literally received emails from people saying, "How do you go about picking a spot?" Somewhere you've never been before, and you moved across country. You've got incredible dogs. You're a diehard hunter. You hunt several days a week. So how do you, if you don't mind me asking, how do you go about picking a place to hunt in a state that has hundreds of thousands, or I should say millions of acres of public land available?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just getting getting to know the bird and what you can figure out about them and what they like to do. Uh, if I was just going to go hunt a new species I've never hunted before, I would start off with range maps. That's what I always do. Just looking at range maps, and then if you can find states that have any sort of density maps, which a lot of them do, you can kind of maybe narrow down an area that has a higher density than others. And then from there, whether it's out west where you're trying to maybe early in the year, you really need to target water sources and not stray too far from them, or crop edges or what have you, whatever is holding birds. You just have to spend some time looking at aerial maps and figure that stuff out. And like this year, the one bird that in Montana that I knew I wanted to hunt this year, but I've never done it in Montana, was sage grouse. So, I just spent hours poring over range maps and then getting on, looking at some aerial views and seeing what's out there, looking for, the what they call the green groceries in the middle of the sagebrush sea, and just kind of going after it. And then, you pick the spot on the map and you've never been there, and you drive out and you're kind of feeling nervous about it. And all of a sudden you start seeing the reflector tags on all the barbed wire fences, and you realize, hey, maybe I do know what I'm doing every once in a while.
It's hard to replace the value of just having time to go out and drive and look at an area before you even get out and hunt it. I spend a lot of time looking at, maps, Onyx map especially, and I'm, dropping pins on places that I want to hunt or that I think might be good. But until you can see it, you don't know where they'll be on that property, or if which side you want to hunt, or maybe some of the crops nearby are still in or out. Or I mean, it's a hard question to really say, here's what I do A, B, C, and D. I mean, you have to go out there and experience it. And a lot of times, some of the best places are places that don't even look good, that people all pass up, and then those birds are there too. So. But people that live in, let's say they live in North Carolina, and they keep hearing us talk about how incredible the hunting is in Montana, and they say, fine, I'm going to do it.
Right.
I'm going to do it.
Right.
And to them, when they reach out, I say, good, go do it. And you'll learn when you get there. You're going to have to invest a little bit of time in trying to figure some things out, and that should be part of the fun and part of the hunt, in my opinion, because I love the reward that comes from struggling to get there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just do your research before you get here. And that way, if you want to go out for a day and specifically try to find Huns, don't be walking around in waist high CRP where you can't see your feet, because you're not going to find them, find that sparse grass, find the stubble edge, and hopefully there's a rickety old barn out there somewhere, and then you're in the zone.
And a rock pile too. Find some rock.
Yeah,
piles.
you'll still find a few pheasants out there too, and hopefully some sharps also. But if you go to a spot that that's too thick for them, you're gonna get into pheasants, but you're just not gonna find the Huns like you would hope you did.
What stood out to you the most this year hunting in Montana? I don't know. I'm guessing you probably spent 80, 100 days out there. Something had to really, really stand out to you overall.
Yeah, I think one thing that really struck me this year were the Huns, and how if you were walking a quarter section of wheat stubble, I would always want to be hacking my dogs to the edge, and then sure enough, one of them would run 400 yards out to the very center of it and point a covey. It's like, you'd think they would, in my head, working the 100 yards close to the edge or something is where they're all going to be, but they have no problem being out in the very middle of a wheat stubble field, out feeding or even loafing out there, I guess. So yeah, that's one thing that struck me for sure. And then just the area where I'm at, there's not any huge tracts of public land or anything here, but just being able to get off work at 3:30, run home, load dogs, and be able to go to a spot where, you know, you have a fair opportunity to get some dog work in before the sun goes down. It's just like awesome. Uh, Being able to get out for an hour or two after work is just, it's the best.
Yeah.
Makes going to work during hunting season bearable.
Well, it's why you moved to Montana to begin with, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw that you posted a photo of a screenshot of your Onyx pins, and I think it was like 11 states: Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, California, Nevada, Oregon, Arizona, and New Mexico. Did I miss any there?
No, that sounds about right. The only one of those that I haven't actually hunted is Nebraska, but I still just drop pins out there because one of these days I'm going to go shoot a prairie chicken.
So, of all the places you've been, if you could only hunt for one bird, what would it be and where?
Ooh, man, that is a tough one. That is a tough one.
You can give me your top two or three.
I really love hunting bobwhite quail. I like the cover that you find them in, and I like the dog work you get out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then even if I had never, yeah, I love bobwhite, and all of them have something really special that they offer.
Well, see, I think Mearns because you get a similar covey, the dog work, but then look at the terrain, look at the mountains.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of Mearns burned me just a little bit because my dogs running with their head up in the air seem to run past a lot of birds. They just don't put down any scent,
Fair enough.
You'd be better off out there with a dog that runs with his head down, and my dogs just don't do that. I mean, don't get me wrong, that covey rise is amazing, and they are beautiful birds and beautiful scenery, but I just Lady does all right on them. Roy he still has never pointed a covey, and he's been out enough times that he should have ran by a covey, but they just don't put down scent and like these other birds do. I'd rather go hunt scaled quail.
Well, it's a good thing that we don't have to pick just one. It's a tough question to answer, but let's get into kind of the part of your story that I really think stands out amongst a lot of other hunters. Your story is so visible. Do you post to Facebook and Instagram every single day?
Just about, it seems like. Yeah, I'm on a drought right now because I haven't been able to run my dogs in a few days, but yeah, I try to take some good pictures and kind of tell what the dogs are up to. I guess my posts are probably a lot more about them than they are ever about me. So
They are always about your dogs. It's great. It's absolutely great. Your photos are phenomenal. Your artwork, which we'll get into a little bit, is really cool as well. But your posts about your dogs are very blunt and they're hilarious. And you'll call out your dogs like I've never seen anybody else call out. It's so funny because everybody thinks they've got the best dog in the world. I have a neighbor that drives by. He's like, "You got to come hunt with me. You've never seen a dog like mine. You have never." Like, okay, I'll do it. Yeah. But well, here, let me, I just scrolled briefly through your page, a little bit, and I will say, I feel like your dogs did really well this year because you didn't call them out nearly as much. And there's a lot, there's a lot to scroll through. So I didn't make it to like 2008 or any of the real good stuff. But here's July 2020. There was a video of your dog, Lady, and here's your caption: "Lady standing through a big brood flush. The last bird flew right over her head and made her break. Please excuse Roy. He backed, but doesn't have time to stand through a flush."
Yeah.
March 28th. In the event, oh, here's a beautiful photo of two dogs with some mountain quail behind them. In the event I'm abducted by aliens, these two aren't available. My brother gets Lady and Maddie gets Roy, but Flirt is all yours. I can't keep up with all the dogs that you're constantly hunting with. Here, December 2nd. Got back to my truck and Lady and Roy were still out on a cast, so I take off my vest and put my gun in the case. Right as Lady comes in, my GPS beeps. Roy on point, 347 yards. I water Lady, take off her collar, and load her. Roy still on point. Throw my vest on, grab my gun, and head towards Roy. I'm coming head on to him, and at about 30 yards, a Tweety gets up between us. And just as I begin to call Roy by his God-given name, a group of about 6 sharps get up, and I whiff with both barrels. December sharps hold all the time, and I can't get feathers in Roy's mouth.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that one was brutal, man. He stood those birds for a long time, and yeah, when that Tweety got up, I was like, oh, I can't believe it. I can't believe I walked all the way back out here for you. And then just as I was doubting old Roy, he had sharps pinned, and I couldn't hold up my end of the bargain, which happens quite often also. So, if my dogs had their own Instagram page, they would be making fun of me as much as I make fun of them.
Right. Well, so as much as you make fun of them, you also let people see the reality of the hunt, which I appreciate, because it's not always a limit of birds and a beautiful shot of your dog. Your photos now are just amazing. So your dogs do look great. But I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I hope you're okay with this. I'm going to read a post you made on May 15th of this year, looking back at your dog, Roy. The post is titled Effin' Roy. I didn't want a new dog. I had just lost JP a month or so before, but Roy needed a new home, and I'm soft. Roy and I met in the parking lot of a Mexican food restaurant in central Kansas. He had wild eyes and jerked constantly at the end of a long lead. I had reservations, but like I said, I'm soft. He was a beautiful 2-year-old dog, well put together, and exuded confidence with the way he carried his head and tail so high. Needless to say, Roy was kenneled in my truck and coming home with me. That first night, I fed and watered him in the hotel parking lot, and after putting Lady in our room, wore out from a long hunting trip where she was my only dog, I walked Roy for over an hour on a long lead trying to get his attention, his trust, and most importantly, hoping he would go potty. I decided I should take him inside and try to settle him down for a bit. He was wild, pacing, whining, and drooling like a madman, and wouldn't you know it, within 5 minutes inside, he took a big shit. That must have been the first time I said, effing Roy. Back in the kennel in the bed of my truck where I heard him howl and bark all night, he continued to howl and bark the entire 1,400-mile drive home, too. Every stop I try to wear him out a bit on the long lead, but trying to wear out a 2-year-old setter in that manner is futile. The stop in Kingston, Arizona was particularly eventful when he managed to yank the lead out of my hand and go bounding through the country. There was no recall. Hell, I wasn't sure he knew his name, or at least he'd never acknowledged he did, and when I had called him. He may never have made it home, but that long lead tangled him in some scrub brush, and I found him, following the barking. Effing Roy. The first few months back home were full of hair pulling for me. We had no rapport, and what I wanted out of him meant nothing. I think we reached a turning point in January when I went to visit my friend Maddie. There was an incident involving tortilla chips where some pretty strong correction took place. Then a reward was offered, one tasty chip, for a behavior that was acceptable, and I believe effing Roy saw the light. The post continues to go on and explains your journey pretty well, but it ends with, so how did effing Roy's season turn out? To make a long story short, he hunted in 6 states, had 8 species shot over his points, and I'm proud of the dog laying at my feet now. This is just the beginning of his story. May there be many more chapters.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey with that dog, that's for sure.
So you have how many setters now?
I have 2. I have Lady and Roy.
Okay, who's Riggins?
Riggins is Emily's young setter. He's a very nice young dog.
Okay. So how old are Lady and Roy?
Lady and Roy are 4 years old. They're actually litter mates, and that's why just having Lady and knowing her and her capabilities, gave me the basically talked me into taking Roy on as a 2 year old, and yeah, it's been two hunting seasons running him now, and he's turning into a pretty decent bird dog.
Gotcha. I found a post from 2018, so this must have been the first year, and this feels like my hunting season. Well, I let Roy run today after Lady and I were done. Let me just say that boy has some wheels. He put 600 yards between us before I got my vest on and was off to the races. I let him roll a while, then tried to get him to check up. No go. Took 30 minutes to catch him, in which time he put down 8 miles. I eventually did catch him, had to sprint across a field and trap him against a slough, at which point we had a come to Jesus moment, and I heeled him back to the truck on lead. Quite eventful, but we both survived. Do you ever go back and read your stories or look at any of your photos?
No, I don't. But as soon as you started reading that, I remember that day, and I might have embellished a little bit saying that I let him go because somehow he broke free that day. That was not a planned event at all. Yeah, he wasn't supposed to get his head that day, but it happened, and yeah, that was something.
Well, it's the fun. It's the whole experience. And I know you appreciate good dog work because that's 90% of what you post about. You take photos of the birds when they fit, of the dogs when they're on point out in this amazing country. But you also talk about the times when things don't go well. So you had JP, and that was a dog that you had for, about 10 years. Is that accurate?
Yep.
Okay. And I believe he passed in 2018.
Yes.
I'll read one post that, and then I'll stop reading your post. But this one here, I think most of them are funny, enjoyable. This one here, I think a lot of people can relate to. November 2nd, 2018. JP and I have made incredible memories together. We've climbed mountains and crossed deserts. We've watched 1,000 sunrises waiting with anticipation and looked back on the day while enjoying the sunset. Together, JP and I have chased our passion across this country. We've filled our bag and been skunked, literally and figuratively. But looking back now, every day was as good as the last. All dogs from here out will be judged, probably unfairly, against JP, as I remember with a bit of Pollyanna. You drove me crazy at times. You were too hard for a first time trainer like myself, and you pushed the boundaries often. The decision to let you run your puppy season with no e collar when your obedience was fair at best was probably not the best one, but we both learned so much from it. You were my best friend and constant companion for 10 years, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat if I could, because you made life full for those years. I told my friend that we'd sign a contract when we pick up that puppy, one that we know ends in heartbreak, but I'll sign that contract every time, even knowing. So don't mourn for us because you see I have a lifetime of memories to cherish. Instead, hug the dog at your feet tight and give him an extra treat and scratch behind the ears for JP and I tonight. John Paul Jones, 11 to 2018.
Yeah, that was gonna make me tear up reading that one. That was he was quite a dog, and I I learned a ton from him, and we had some great times together.
Of all the places that you guys hunted together, if you could go back and do one more again, what would it be?
Hmm, that's a good question. I mean, the first time I took JP to South Dakota was incredible. We saw more birds in a day there than we could see in a lifetime in California. And I think if there's anything that he would like to do again, it would probably be running a few of those fields in South Dakota and picking up more birds than he ever knew existed. So yeah, that's heaven for a Springer Spaniel, I would say.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, I can completely relate because my experience hunting in different states, in your story as far as working with dogs is kind of similar to mine in that we both chose to tackle it head on. I obviously have some really great friends that are phenomenal dog trainers that gave me the foundation, but I'm still out there battling and learning, and you're doing it too. I want to talk with you a bit about what you've learned training your dogs on your own and a few things that might be able to help some people. But first, I want to remind you that the onX Hunt app is one of the most helpful tools that I bring into the field. I use it every day that I go hunting, and my library of information keeps on growing. I'm always learning more about the features inside the app because the techs continue to add new ones for us to use. Features like wind and weather conditions for the specific property that I'm going to hunt. I also have the ability to make notes within each pin that I drop on a property. I can track my routes when I hunt and save them for future hunts. I'm finding that I'm also using the app in ways that aren't hunting related. Just yesterday, I was venturing across a frozen lake and I turned on my route tracker so that I could record the exact steps that I made on the ice. I saved that track so that I can use it all winter long to safely get to and from a fishing spot. When I'm hunting, the app serves as a scouting tool. I hunt all over the country and I'm constantly hunting on property I've never stepped foot on before. To find those publicly accessible places to hunt, I begin with a zoomed out view of a county or region and I look for the different colors that outline public land boundaries. Properties like walk in access lanes, wildlife management areas, or block land. Then I zoom in on the property to take a closer look and the kind of terrain and land surrounding it. I make a game plan before ever seeing a property or stepping foot on it. It also helps to make sure that I never leave that property or trespass on someone else's land because I keep the app open when I'm hunting to reference my moving location. I also use the onX chip in my Garmin remote to make sure that Daisy doesn't run across those invisible property boundaries. Basically, my app has become a living hunting journal that I'll continue to use for years to come. If you haven't tried the onX app, I highly recommend that you download it before your next hunting adventure. They give you a free trial so you'll be able to test it out while on the road. And my guess is that you'll become a lifelong user like myself, Robert, and pretty much everybody else that I know with that hits the field. onX Maps, they help you to know where you stand. Robert, before onX Maps existed, what do you use?
Before onX existed, I would stop in the first BLM or forestry office there was and buy every map that they had in there, and I would have like 100 paper maps in my glove box.
Do you keep any of those? You still have them?
Yeah, I do still have some of them actually. Yeah, I mean, if times ever got rough, I could pull a few of those out and find some of my old spots. So,
Nice, nice. So, when will you start training your dogs again?
um,
Or
I
maybe the
probably
question, maybe the question should be, do you ever really stop?
yeah, obvious. Well, I don't stop training them. I'm definitely give the birds a break when the weather's bad and there's nesting season going on.
Hmm.
But there's other things to work on that we can um, do without putting any pressure on wild birds when they need a break. So yeah, try not to stop. We can do some yard work. We can do some table work. We can put some pigeons in a trap if we need to work on something specific like backing drills or something like that. But yeah, I'll be waiting until the broods are nice and healthy and flighted before we get back out running on wild birds. So sometime in August probably. And but between the now and then, there's plenty of stuff that we can work on in other ways.
So I've got a German Shorthair Pointer English Setter mix that basically it looks like your dog's, but she doesn't have the longer hair. Why did you go with setters ultimately?
Um, I was just I knew for my I was getting more into quail hunting and chukar hunting in the eastern side of the state where there's some bigger country and I just wanted a dog that could cover more ground for me. And I had a friend, if anyone listening remembers the old Ultimate Pheasant Hunting Forum, had a friend, Troy Smith, who breeds setters down in Kansas. And Troy sent me an email one day saying that there was a litter in Southern California out of a dam that he bred, and the sire was out of basically like a line bred Tacoma Mountain Sunrise, which is just a huge name in the setter world. And he just said, if you're serious about a pointing dog, this should be a good litter. And I called the guy, and Troy had put in a good word for me, and I got Lady out of that litter. So
You eventually got Roy too. Did you already?
yes.
Did you explain why Roy became available?
Um, the the owner of the guy who got Roy out of the litter actually owned their grandsire on the bottom side of the pedigree, and it was just one of those situations where life changed for him, and he couldn't keep some of the dogs that he had. And again, Troy called me, knew I was in Kansas, and asked if I wanted to go look at this dog. And I should have known better, but yeah, I went and saw this crazy dog in the parking lot of a Mexican food restaurant, and I was like, "Yep, load him up. That's exactly what I need."
Oh my goodness, you're glutton for punishment. So what do you desire out of a dog? What is like if you say this is my dream dog, what does it look like? How does it hunt?
Um, I want a dog with a lot of grit that I can put down anywhere, and his or her drive to find birds is gonna carry him through whatever obstacles there are. If you go down to New Mexico, you're gonna run into cholla, and if you have a dog that cares more about finding birds than its hurting, it'll just run through that cholla, and it won't even slow them down at all. And Lady and Roy are that way, and it's something I really appreciate about them. And yeah, so I want a gritty dog with heat tolerance, a dog that is kind of, I don't want to say independent, but um, not scared to get out there and get into the country and find some birds, basically.
I see, you'll give stats every once in a while about, like Roy locked up at 749 yards and then Lady backed at, however distance. People in, let's say, Minnesota for the most part. I mean, the property that they're hunting might not even be that distance, and so, I mean, how far will you let your dogs go?
Yeah, I mean, I would have no problem taking these two to the Northwoods and putting them out in rough grouse country, and they wouldn't run that way if I did. They would be. It might take a little bit of adjustment, but they would work for the cover that's in front of them. So it just depends. It depends on where we're at. Hunting mountain quail in on the western slope of the Sierra Nevada, if you have a dog that's much more than 100 yards away, that's a long ways for those birds in that country. But if you're hunting sharptail or chukar, 100 yards is just barely getting into the country. So it really depends on where you're at and what's going on. But I have no I don't have a limit to where I'm uncomfortable and I'm trying to bring them in. If they want to roll out and find birds, and they can pin them down, they can do whatever they'd like, pretty much, as long as they're, for the most part, staying forward on the route we're going together. That's about all I ask from them, is to stay connected with me as far as knowing which direction I'm headed, because there's nothing worse than looking down at your GPS and your dog is 600 yards behind you. That is just that's the worst. I can't
Right.
stand that. And so yeah, as long as they stay forward and they're getting into the country and hitting objectives, they can kind of do whatever they'd like.
What what's the training method that you use with your dogs, and how did you figure out which one worked for you?
Oh, that's a terrible question to ask me. Um,
Is it still evolving?
I would say that I'm on the train of thought where I'm getting a dog with the genetics to do what it should do, and I'm not really training them. I'm developing them into what they're going to be, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's kind of just a different mentality, I guess. There's not a whole lot I need to train my dogs to do. I do travel a lot and go in and out of hotel rooms, so having a dog that will heel on a leash is pretty good for me, and we can get stuff like that taken care of. But the more I run these dogs and the more I learn, the more different dogs I see, I think I kind of just need to let them get out there and develop on their own and see what they have naturally and go from there.
One thing I've really watched my puppy do just this, in her first season, everyone said don't expect much, just take her hunting, and let her experience it. And we spent a week in South Dakota and she contacted, I don't know, 1,500 birds. And she grew 4 years older in 1 week out there with wild birds. I don't think you can, there's no way to replace wild birds. Even going to a game farm, yes, there's contacts made there, but they're not behaving the same way. They're not running at a game farm. They're not reacting the way that you're going to experience out there. So just being in those places, and that's a hard thing to do. I mean, that's a hard thing for people that maybe they get 1 or 2 weeks a year where they can go on a hunt somewhere and they travel all the way across the country. So if somebody wants, if they've got a wild dog like bull dog, which you've got, which you have, I have. What's your advice to, I have a friend that called me the other day. He's like, I think I'm gonna take my German short hair back. It's too stressful. He's ran away. He's chased deer. We can't trust him. Can't take him anywhere with the family. It's really tough. He's like, what do I do? I mean, what's your advice to somebody going through that?
Yeah, that's I don't, you know, I would say that maybe you need to lean a little heavier on some correction until they really start to understand the boundaries.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, a strong-headed dog it can be a stressful time, but also some of those dogs, if you can get through that, might just be they might have the fire, that can really turn them into something special. So um, I don't know, maybe make them drag around a weighted check cord for a few hours or something. I don't know. Throw about 30 pounds of lead on a check cord and let them run through a field, get them wore out.
Yeah.
You know,
I've gone back to the basics many times, many times. We think we're past it, and then it's like, nope, we're gonna go back to it, and just in how much my dog responds to that too. The obedience training.
yeah. I think getting them up on a table up off the ground and kind of wowing them up on there, and um, I wouldn't back to my developing a dog versus training them. I'm not gonna whoa a puppy or anything like that on birds at all, but they're gonna know the whoa command and how to heal. And maybe every once in a while you might just have to go for a 15-minute refresher course in the backyard of just like you're gonna heal, you know, properly and stop and not move until you're released, and just kind of go back to those things just to get their mind right every once in a while.
Hmm. Would you rather shoot a bird with the camera lens or with a shotgun?
That's a good question. Yeah. I would love to be able to take better photographs of birds. My skills with the camera and my equipment are a little lacking for that. But I tell people all the time, I got all my killing phase out of the way with a Springer, and there's no better way to get through that phase of your career than with a Springer Spaniel. And now I'm quite a bit more relaxed out there. I obviously still love to shoot some birds, and when it all goes right, we do. And hopefully, I can hold up my end of the deal. But yeah, I would love to be able to take better photos, especially of birds on the wing. That would be a big goal for me to work on for sure.
You have the other non-dog related photos that you post are your artwork. So you combine your love for upland birds with your art. Have you always been into art?
Yeah, I've always kind of throughout my life, I guess I've had different creative outlets. I used to do a lot of writing. I used to play in some bands. I used to skateboard. I just had a lot of creative outlets, and I kind of got dogged down with being an adult for a while, and I realized I didn't have any of that anymore, and just kind of picked up a sketchbook and started messing around with it again. And it's nice having that outlet. My camera is the same way for me now, I guess. I really enjoy trying to get good photographs of whatever it may be. Obviously, my dogs are my main subject matter, but yeah, I probably just started sketching again 3 years ago, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, why do you share all of this with everybody on your Facebook and Instagram account?
That's a good question. I enjoy seeing everybody else's content. I love seeing my internet friends being successful out there, doing new things and taking cool photos. And I love to see their artwork and all that. So I really do enjoy when other people share really good content. So I just kind of try to put that back out there, and hopefully there's people out there that also get something from looking at the things I share.
Well, they definitely laugh. I'm positive of that. And they probably feel better about themselves too when you admit all the struggles that you go through on your way to putting a bird in the bag. Do you do you ever Yeah, oh for sure. Do you ever get any pushback from anybody?
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
Really? Like what?
Just I don't know. There's nothing you can do on the internet that someone doesn't have a problem with.
Yeah, that's
So
true. That's true.
yeah,
Does it ever make you regret it then?
no, I don't care.
Yeah,
I I
that's
have
a good attitude.
I probably have like the most terrible attitude about that. Like I just really don't care at this point. And you know, I if you don't like it, if you don't like the stuff I'm doing, you can just hit that unfollow button. It's no problem. It's not going to bother me a bit.
So, if somebody wanted to hit the follow button, where do they find you?
R Jones 05 on Instagram. I kind of like Instagram a little bit more than Facebook, just because I get the content that I want without seeing a lot of the other stuff.
The
So
political stuff? Yeah, I hear you.
yeah. So I really do enjoy Instagram for that. And yeah, you could follow me on there and see pictures of Lady and Roy and Riggins and all the stuff we do together, and Bridger, the little cocker that I'm babysitting right now. So
Nice.
yeah,
Very nice. Very nice. Well, appreciate you taking the time. Last question. What is your ultimate bird hunting goal? Is there anything that you're looking forward to next year or the years beyond?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to starting a few pups here shortly, hopefully.
Nice.
And I think a spruce grouse in Montana is definitely on the list, and revenge on prairie chickens. Lady has pointed more than a few layup shots on prairie chickens for me, and I have still not held up my end of the bargain on that. So, more
Oof.
trips to Kansas, Nebraska, and South Dakota. So
Fantastic. Well, I wish you well. I'll be following your journey, and now plenty of other people can follow you as well. I appreciate you taking the time. Hopefully it warms up a little bit and you can get back out in the field with your dogs. All right, Rob. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Once again, thank you to Onyx Maps for helping us to make this show possible. Be sure to download the Onyx Hunt app before your next hunting adventure to find out why it's one of the most valuable hunting tools available today. New episodes of the Flush Television Show are being uploaded each week to our YouTube channel. Stream each episode in its entirety from home, on the road, or from your favorite hunting camp somewhere out in bird country. Thank you for joining us this week. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Flush Podcast.